Okay, now we know that when we say that the system is in thermodynamic equilibrium, the system is basically static. That is, there is no dynamic processes involved within the system or maybe any interaction with the system and the surrounding. So system surrounding interaction, there is nothing like that. Within system interaction, that also doesn't exist. So this is basically an absolute equilibrium state. We know that. And why it is important to consider such a state? Because only at this state, only at static state, let me write this, only at static condition, we can measure the properties. Okay, we know that. And once we can measure the properties, we can mark the property on the property diagram. Or let to generalize, let's say that the properties are A and B, any two properties. And we are basically finding a property. We are fixing the state of the system just by using two properties or the required number of properties based on the working fluid system that we know how much are required according to the Gibbs phase rule. Okay. So this is how we mark the state based on the thermodynamic equilibrium. Now, for any natural process, say take an example of natural process. Uh, does the process follow thermodynamic equilibrium forever? Like during the process? No, it doesn't. See, any natural process, I can mark easily the initial point because initial point, say, I have this system, this system of piston cylinder arrangement. I have this gas here. I heat this system, and then finally, what will happen? There will be expansion. So from this state, now the piston has raised to this state. There is gas all over here. This is a spontaneous process, right? Once I heat this will start moving up and this will reach here. This is the final state, this is the initial state. And after final state, the system will come again into equilibrium. It will be static here, it will be static here. So initial state can be easily marked because this is measurable. Also the final state can also be marked. So I mark these two states, this is initial state and this is final state. That is, I basically measure, or rather I'm able to measure the properties at this state and at this state, final and initial state. But what in between? Of this process, I have marked these two things. What is happening in between? I don't know. I don't know because I never measured the properties. Say suppose A and B are there. Did I measure the properties? No, because these were not able to get measured. I was not able to measure these. Why? Because the system was never in thermodynamic equilibrium. So no thermodynamic equilibrium, therefore unable to measure the properties. Therefore, I don't know what is happening in between. I have measured the properties at initial and final state because those were in thermodynamic equilibrium. Okay. So what is between? In between is something called as the process, which is I am not able to find as of now. But let's just define what is a process and what is the path. Although I have talked about it, we have mentioned it multiple times, the word process. But still, let's get on to a technical definition. So, what is a process? So, any change a system undergoes from one equilibrium state to another is called a process. So, for here, I have one equilibrium state, I have another equilibrium state. The change which has happened from one equilibrium state to another equilibrium state is called a process, which is very common sense because see, since this has happened, then I can infer that some process might have taken place. Otherwise, this wouldn't have happened. The change of state wouldn't have happened. Since it has happened, then that means the process has taken place. Okay. Um, Let me define what is a quasi-static process now. So a quasi-static process is sufficiently slow process so that at all the time system is in thermodynamic equilibrium. Now what does that mean? Imagine that you have this piston cylinder arrangement and you have some weights over it. Some weights, these are not very high values of weight but very small values of weight. Right, for example, maybe in grams, maybe in zero point 0.1 gram or so. So these are very small weight values and I've kept it over the piston, and this is the cylinder and this is gas entrapped in it. Now what I'll do is I want to take this to the final state where the piston has completely expanded. That means I've taken all the weights out. Now the piston has completely expanded. The volume is now V2. Initially the volume was V1. Okay, I want to go to here. But how will I go? I'm not directly removing all these weights, but instead what I will do is I will one by one slowly I will remove these small weights. Right? I will remove these small weights. So say I removed the first weight. Let me just take this reference level. I removed the first weight and my piston has raised just a little bit above. See, I had four weights. I've removed one, so I'm left with three weights now. The piston has risen a little amount, say dV, and now I'm keeping it stable here. So what I'll do, what I've done, I've removed this weight. Now the system has come to this state, the second state, and I've allowed it to remain here. That is, I've allowed it to balance all the forces. I've allowed it to have stability within the system and stability from in the system with the surrounding interactions as well. So there is complete stability. The system is now basically in static condition. That is, the system is in thermodynamic equilibrium now. So I've removed a weight. I've allowed the system to get into thermodynamic equilibrium. And now this is the second state, right? What I'll do further, I'll remove another weight. And the system will again be in the thermodynamic equilibrium. So here you can see what I have done. This was the second state with the three weights and some volume. Now next what do I do? I remove one more weight. Now we have left with only two weights. The piston has risen a little bit more by dV, and here also it has risen by dV. So now I have state 3 and state 4, and then will come the final state. So if I plot this, what I have just done, add initial state which was anyways measurable, add final state which was again anyways easily measurable for any natural process. But now since I've done this in 4 steps or 3 steps in between, I have another state point. I was able to mark another state point. Why? Because at state 2 I allowed the system to get in thermodynamic equilibrium, right? Because we just removed a small weight, the system moved a little bit, then it achieved thermodynamic equilibrium, and then I was able to measure its properties. Then the system was again taken to a third state where again I did the same thing. Then it was able to reach to the fourth stage. Again the same thing repeated, and the final state. So now I have a little bit of idea that what a process is happening. I have number of state points here 5 to tell how the process has taken place. What will happen if I have infinite such intermediate processes happening between my initial and final point? Well, I'll get a lot of state points in between, and these state points will guide me exactly how the process is happening. And now I can join the initial and final state with a line which will represent what? It will represent a process. It will represent a process. And this line right here is called the path of the process. Earlier also the process happened when I had just the 2 points. The process did happen, but I never knew the path. I never knew how the process happened. Now the process has happened and I know what is the path of process. When the process is quasi-static or reversible, then we can represent the process by a single line, a solid line. Okay. And when we don't know what the path of process is, we only know 2 points, two state points. There is some process in between. We don't know what the path is. Then we represent it by dashed lines. So dashed line is representative of non-quasi-static process, or basically any natural process. So all the natural processes are non-quasi-static by nature because they are spontaneous, right? By following a quasi-static process, what we did, we killed the spontaneity of process. We allowed the process to happen in a step-by-step manner, so that we were able to know how the path of the process is, how the behavior of the process is. It might not happen in the real state, in the real case scenario, but for an ideal case, this is how it will happen. See, quasi-static process assumption is only valid in our ideal scenario. But in real life case, this doesn't hold true. Quasi-static process doesn't exist. So why are we even studying this process? So simple answer is, without quasi-static process, we never knew the path and how the process went. So say suppose I have two properties A and B which is describing some system. I have initial state and maybe I have some final state, and I don't know what is the behavior of this system. By knowing following a quasi-static process, I will get some path of this process, any path that the system is following. Now, this might not be real path. This is not real. But my real path will be somewhere close to this curve, right? It will be somewhere following this curve, maybe like this, maybe like this. But the trend, I'm talking about the trend, I'm talking about the behavior in general, would be somewhere similar, which will give me an idea how the process, how the system is behaving to certain property changes. Like how will the system responds when A changes, A increases, or how the system will respond with B increases. I'm not getting the real curve, but at least I'm getting a behavioral pattern which will be somewhere followed by the real process as well. The next thing, an important thing, and the thing which we know, quasi-static process enabled us to know the path. And path is very important because the process happened, but even in the ideal case we didn't know what the path was. So knowing the path is very important. And why it is very important, see, we are understanding now the importance of knowing the path of the process. I will take another example. You have any curve defined by any two parameters, say y and x, and this is your curve. You want to do some mathematical operations on this curve. Say I want to perform some maths on this curve. Maybe I want to perform integration. So what will be integration? Integration y dx. So for that I need to know what is the value of y, how the y is changing with respect to x. So for that y should be a function of x, right? And not only that, the curve should be continuous. Only then I will be able to perform the integration, right? If I have this x and y where y is a function of x but the curve itself is not defined, the curve is not continuous, then can I find the area under this curve? No, because the curve itself was not defined. But here, since the curve was properly defined, therefore I can easily find out the area under the curve, that is I can find the integration. Now, similarly, all other mathematical operations can be done once you know the function y as a function of x. That is possible when the curve is, when you have basically the path, the curve existing. So that is where the importance of knowing the path of the process comes into picture. So for any process we must know the path. So why to perform a quasi-static process? Basically quasi-static process gives us following things. It enables us to know the behavior of real processes, not the exact process, exact path, but at least some behavioral pattern we can understand by performing an idealized process. That is why we do quasi-static process. Then to get the path of the process, and once we get the path of the process, we are able to do the mathematical operations. So that is where doing any process in quasi-static manner becomes very important. Mind that quasi-static process can be followed by while doing any other processes, such as constant temperature process. If I want to do constant temperature process plus I want to do it in a quasi-static manner,
then I can do that. Then I will understand how the process is actually happening, because I will be knowing the path of the process. And also the combination where I do it in a quasi-static manner. I do constant temperature process and quasi-static or reversible manner. This combination is known as isothermal process, right? So similarly, if I do constant pressure process plus, that is constant pressure process done in an quasi-static or reversible manner, this combination is called as isobaric. So basically, whenever the word iso is used or isen is used, that means that the process is followed in a reversible or quasi-static manner. So yes, this is it for this video. Thank you so much.